Hello, everyone. I'll continue with the reading of the second chapter of the manuscript that I've written recently, The Real Beauty and the Beast. So, I'll continue with it. However, I did not get any views for yesterday's video. Let's see, if you are interested, you can watch the video, and if you're not interested, then in a few days I will know whether I should continue with the reading or not. And I've not heard from any publishers so far. However, I'd like to continue reading with the second chapter for the day. So, the second chapter is, Who is the Beast? Is he the real beast? Let the quest begin. As I begin my day by writing this piece of poetry, I want to give a poetic touch to my manuscript with the caption, Beauty and the Beast. Life is for real and not to be played with. As it makes its way to reality, there is a beauty and a beast everywhere. Do you have the eyes to identify the difference between them? While I write, I hear loud mantra chanting from Maya's house. It's not a recording, but her real voice, so loud that everyone in the neighborhood can hear. I feel the air carrying the positivity of the mantras spreading through the neighborhood. It makes me wonder, is Maya praying for the world or for herself and her loving family? The sheer volume of her chanting provokes these thoughts. Then I hear an unfamiliar voice, very different from yesterday's. How much oil will you waste lighting these lamps? Isn't one enough? I have seen many God-fearing people who are ritualistic like you. Why do you perform this drama every day? My thoughts shift from mantra chanting to the new voice, drawing my attention as I try to identify the beast of the story. Maya replies, You can ask me to cut down on anything, but please don't come between me and my God. We share a special bond that maybe you cannot understand. The voice snaps back. How many images of gods and goddesses do you have on your puja altar? You intend to light a lamp for each? Is that even justified? Are you not wasting your time and money? Your puja lasts for an hour. You're wasting your time on rituals. The Maya stands her ground and dragging the matters elsewhere. Your mother must have told you that I'm wasting money on lamp oil. I don't live on her money, so she has no right to comment on our life. Remember, when you wanted to gift me that gold stud and your mom categorically told you not to? She always interferes and ruins things for us. Don't you have a spine to protect me? Why are you just a puppet in your mother's hands? Can't you think independently? Just then, I catch a vague glimpse of Maya through my window. She's being choked by a man I've never seen before. She tries to scream, but his grip is so tight it feels like he's trying to end her life. I'm torn between calling the cops and the fear of witnessing such pain. While strangling her, the man snarls, How dare you speak about my mother? You have no right to say a word about her. Maya cries out, You don't love me. You only care about your parents. Am I even on your list of people you like? There's an insecurity in her voice. She is not just crying from physical pain, but from mental trauma inflicted in this relationship. My eyes then catch sight of Maya's son, dressed and ready for school with his lunch and water bottle in hand. He watches him silently, without tears or fear, as if used to this fight. My heart aches for the little boy, forced to witness such scene at such a tender age. I wish I could carry him away to safety, away from this nightmare. My thoughts drift from my manuscript as waves of emotion settle deep within me. I sympathize and empathize with that boy. I also wonder how the conversation shifted so quickly from mantras to violence and pain, how the story turned beastly. Just then, an auto driver arrives to pick up the boy for school. Maya and the man walk out silently, wearing smiles that seems so artificial to someone who just witnessed the earlier scene. They both kiss the boy's cheeks and say, Bye, all the best, take care. The boy smiles back as if he hasn't witnessed anything unusual. It all seems like a facade, a family maintaining a perfect public image. My curiosity grows, adding a new character to my quest for the beast. Every character must be chosen carefully. or the story won't weave well enough to convey its true message. As I ponder this, Maya and the man go back inside. Minutes later, the man storms out, slamming the door behind him. Maya cries silently. It looks like the argument has resumed, something I missed since we just moved in yesterday and I was busy unpacking. Determined to continue my search for the beast, I decide to follow the man in my car. To my surprise, he meets a friend and they spoke openly in front of a small cigarette shop. I stop near a vegetable vendor to buy some groceries and overhear their loud conversation. The man calls his mother and says, Amma, I can't live with her anymore. Her daily pujas are absurd. Why did you get me married to her? She's not the woman I want to live with. I can't even introduce her to my friends. I hear his mother try to respond, but he interrupts. If you don't believe me, ask Vinod. He knows how disturbed I am. She doesn't even like me smoking and drinking. Every day she makes me swear on her before I leave that I won't smoke or drink. I give false promises just to keep her happy. If she is dying, let her die. I'm better off without her. His friend Vinod says, Put it on speaker. I'll explain to your mother how she tortures you and how restricted your life is. You have no freedom or space. I'll justify this to your mother. Lost in the conversation, I almost forget the vegetable vendor who asks if he can help me select produce. I insist on choosing myself, though my ears remain glued to the men's talk. Now I'm certain this man is Maya's husband. His mother's voice on speaker says, Your father's court case is still pending. Remember, our Guruji said her footsteps are good for our house and will end your father's civil court troubles. Don't you know the reason behind this marriage? Just keep her happy. It's only for a few days. We'll settle the court cases and then see how to get rid of her. My sympathy for Maya deepens. I quickly finish with the vendor and decide to follow the men to see what they do next. They drive happily, smoking and chatting, and finally reach an office. I realize the men are not just friends but also colleagues. Driving home, my mind is heavy with thoughts of Maya and her child. She is unaware of her husband's and her in law's true intentions. I consider telling her everything but wonder how much a stranger would believe. The days passes with unpacking and settling in, aided by some helpers. Later, Maya's son returns from school amid boys shouting, Bye, Chitranjan. Maya joyfully picks him up, and I see a happy mother son bond. They laugh and play together, sharing moments of warmth. As evening falls, the beast arrives home. Stepping out of the car with a smile, he calls, Where's Amma? The boy calls, Amma, Appa is calling you. Maya appears neatly dressed in yellow salwar kameez and exchanging smiles with her husband, and soon the whole family dresses up and leaves the house. I'm glad to see them united but wary of the beastly intentions I have glimpsed. Feeling tired and lazy to cook, I decide to eat out nearby. At the restaurant, I see Maya and her family happily chatting, their son enjoying his meal. I order some South Indian food, finish quickly, and leave, watching this happy family smile. So, is he the real beast, or is there a beast hidden deeper in the story? From this angle, I keep Maya's husband as the beast, the man forced into a relationship he never wanted, controlled by his parents for selfish reasons. But is he the beast, or his parents the true beasts? From his perspective, he's trapped in a marriage to a woman he doesn't desire. He's caged, forced to smile, and stuck in duties his heart rejects. As I end my day, I feel mixed about this new character. I'll observe the family more closely before deciding who the true beast is. Appearances can be deceptive. So, is beauty the real beast, or is the beast the real beauty? Let's explore this mystery at the end of my manuscript. Or maybe it's just a story of beauty and the beast combined in one person. Well, let's find out the truth in the real Beauty and the Beast story. So that's the end of second chapter. And I'd like to just mention one thing, that the narrator and the writer are two different people. I'm the writer of the story and somebody else is narrating the story to me. So I'm just making note of it. So that's what I wanted to convey. And that's all for the day. And I hope you've enjoyed the story so far. Have a nice day and thanks for your time. And thanks for watching.